So the object of the exercise for me this particular time is to use up things that I already have to make something that I want to make. So I've got a short zip, and I think this one is probably about 18 centimetres. It wasn't far off by the looks of it. Yeah, I think that is 18 centimetres. That was a good guess, wasn't it? So that's my zipper. Not the same colour, but yeah, it's contrast. And I have a piece of toweling which is 6 centimetres wide, and then I have a couple of pieces which are 3.5 centimetres wide each. Now the reason this isn't cut properly, I would say, is simply because I didn't have enough towel left to do this. So I was sort of like, I'll have a bit cut out here and I'll have a bit cut out there, and I'm hoping that I've got enough to go around. If I don't, I'll have to cut another strip out of an old scrap somewhere. But I was determined I wasn't going to cut up yet another towel, so that's why. And the reason these are narrower is because these are going either side of the zipper. So the first thing that I have to do here is to turn in an edge, and I am going to be turning it in just the tiniest fraction, and then it's going to be sewn down the length of the zipper. So once that is done, I can then put the longer strip on either side. So first job, get these two pieces on, and I'm going to do that on my sewing machine. Okay, now hopefully you can see from this that you can still see the teeth. Normally when you put a zip in, you want to hide the zip completely. In this particular case, I don't, and the reason for that is because this is toweling. And if it is too close to the zipper, it will get stuck in there. So I set it back just a little bit from the actual centre of the zip. So I've sewn it on with the zip open down to about so far, and then I put the needle down into the fabric still and closed the zipper to sew the last centimetre or so. And that's how you cope with the bulky bit of the zipper pull. So here we have the zipper in, and I know this looks rough and ready at the moment, but you're not going to be seeing that when it's finished. The next part of the process is really easy. You want to put the fabric right side to right side with the zipper closed so that it's in the position it needs to be in. And because I actually made this a centimetre wider, this was 7 and this is only 6, because of the seam allowances, incidentally. If I put this corner to corner and turn it over, that is pretty much lining up, so that's not bad at all. So you can either stitch it from the back or the front, it's entirely up to you, but what I do is I put clips in like this, which help me to keep it in place. I don't tend to use pins very much, just use clips like that. And then when I open it up, I can pull the zipper away while I stitch that bit in place. So that's what it looks like from the wrong side, and then from the right side you have a perfectly set zipper. Can't be bad, can it? Because this is toweling, I'm going to zigzag the rest of these edges, but if you're using any other fabric, you probably wouldn't have to bother. So I've now got my 2 layers of fabric clipped together, and all I'm going to do is some kind of whirly random pattern stitching the 2 layers together. I had a bit of a disaster with this because I forgot to put the loops in when I did this seam. Normally you make a loop, which is simply folding over fabric until you get a nice thickness and all your raw edges are covered, and then you put it in this seam here and this seam here to enable you to have something to hang on to when you want to open and close your zipper. And I completely and utterly forgot. So I thought, okay, I'll be clever. I'll use rivets instead and put some loops knotted in the inside and on the outside so that you have something to hold on to. Only I made the rivet hole too big and the rivet didn't adhere to the fabric, it just pulled out. So I've put my loops on top of here. It is not the prettiest option, but it's better than having holes in the fabric where the rivets were. This is how not to do it. There are days, I swear, where I ought to keep out of my craft room. Now these are my side panels and I'm actually quite pleased with the way they've come out. I have never done anything like that in my life before. I have never done anything sort of freehand like that. I mean, I've done machine embroidery and things like that, but I've never done any freehand quilting. I've never done quilting actually, but you know, that's just me. So I'm quite pleased with the way those have come out. So all I have to do now is to stitch this around one side and see whether I have enough of this to go completely around. I think it's going to work, but I think it's going to be a close call. I'm in luck. I've actually got room for this to overlap. So I'm extremely pleased that that is the case. I was suspecting that I would get to the other end and find that there wasn't enough fabric there, but I am so lucky that that has worked. So what you want to do with this is you're either going to pin it or do what I've done and put grips around. And when it comes to the base piece, what you want to do is work out where the join should be and just overlap it like that. And then put a grip on here. And you can see from the other side what you're going to get is a nice neat finish. Or you can do it this way. It's up to you. You can either put it together like that and do a seam like that, or you can overlap it and do a seam that way. So I've got one side on. It went on really easy. Having those clips clip it in place, it was just magic. I've trimmed off the excess and zigzagged over that edge, and when it's eventually finished I will cut off all these little bits here. You can see that we have a fully round bag with a zipper along the top, and all I need to do is attach the other side. When you want to attach the other side, do make sure to have your zip open. When you put it together, before you stitch it, make sure you have the toweling part on all sides on the outside. It is very easy to make a mistake and accidentally stitch it the other way round so that you have what looks like the lining on this side, but that's not the lining in this case. That's the actual front side of it. The white is the bit that I want to show and not the toweling. So do check that before you start stitching, because if you're using toweling, it's a real pain in the neck to try and unpick that. If you're very sharp-eyed, you might have thought, what are those brownish marks on the edge of the fabric? And yes, I did actually use my laser to cut the fabric, and it actually cut it very well. I was quite surprised that it managed to cut toweling, because it's a rather strange thing to cut. But yeah, all of it was cut on my laser cutter. Obviously most people are going to be cutting by hand. I don't expect everyone to have a laser cutter. But the pattern is very simple. You just need 2 circles and you need to work out the circumference of a circle. You can use the internet to find that result, as indeed I would. It's a long time since I did that kind of geometry. I think it's multiply it by 3.14 if I remember correctly. And the only thing is that you want to have a piece which is the same length plus a couple of centimetres of your zip length, that is, to be a centimetre or so wider to allow for your attaching it to the zipper. But other than that, it is pretty much a round circle and a long strip. The loops, you can just cut a small piece of fabric, fold it over and just stitch through the length of it. That's all I did for these. That's pretty standard, and just don't forget to put them in the seams like I did. It makes life easier if you do that. So I'm happy with the way it came out. If you're a proper quilt maker, I apologise for the offence this might cause. I do not normally quilt, and I'd never done any freestyle quilting on anything. So that was just a bit of fun that I thought I'd have a go at. I might do some more of that sometime because I quite enjoyed myself. But I didn't have a hoop to put it in at the time. I'm sure I got one somewhere, but I didn't look for it. I was just doing it with the fabric, moving the fabric on my sewing machine. I should have had it in a hoop to do it properly. But yeah, a bit of fun. And you could always use applique and things like that instead if you want to. Or indeed, use a pretty fabric and then you don't have to pretty it up anyway. So there we go. A little bit of a change from my usual videos. I just felt like doing some sewing and I hadn't done any for a very long time. So if you like this sort of thing, let me know. Leave your comments down below. Like and subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you again soon. Take care now.